All right, so today for math, we're going to learn about area. Not area, our lovely student in class, but area of a figure or a shape. On Wednesday, we talked about perimeter, which was the amount of unit squares that go around a shape. And today we're going to talk about area, which is how many unit squares fit into a shape. So it's the inside. So let's get going here. A square with a side length of 1 unit is called a unit square. So when you're finding the area, you'll often have your shape on a grid like this. Each one of these squares is 1 unit square. A unit square has 1 square unit of area and can be used to measure area. So when we find the area of something and we need a label, we will say the number square units. So we can just count the unit squares and it tells us what our area is. Area is the number of square units needed to cover a figure without overlapping. That just means it needs to go on the inside of the figure. So let's see this in action here. We're going to draw and shade 2 different rectangles that each have an area of 20 square units. So 2 different rectangles can have the same area because it's what's on the inside. It doesn't matter necessarily what the shape looks like. So we need to shade a rectangle made up of 20 unit squares. So I'm going to do this here. You can make yours look different than mine, or you can copy mine exactly. So this grid here is 10 by 10 grid. So there's 10 unit squares down and 10 unit squares across, meaning there's 100 unit squares total. So I'm going to start by shading in these 10 right here. 10 unit squares. Then to make 20, I'll shade down this, and then I'll have my 20 unit squares. So I made 1 rectangle that the area, the inside is 20 square units. But now it's telling me what is the perimeter. This is what we did on Wednesday. So I need to add up the outside. So we have 10 on this side, 2 on the top, 10 over here, and 2 down here. So if I add those 4 numbers together, I get 24. So my perimeter is 24. Now I'm going to draw a different rectangle. I'm just going to erase this here, but I'll leave the rectangle up. We're going to draw a different rectangle with the same area. It still has 20 units, 20 square units on the inside. So this time I'm going to do 5 until I get to 20. So there's 5, 10, 15, whoa, 20. Wow, this is hard with this one. No, it should not go outside here. Get rid of that. I'm going to try again. Come back. So it's much easier for you guys to shade with your pencil, marker, whatever, than it is for me to do right here. So you should keep it in the squares so you don't get confused. Okay, so I'm going to find the perimeter of this one. We'll see if they're different. So we have 5 down here, 4 on the side, 5 and 4. So I add those 4 numbers up, I get 18. So what this shows us is you can have 2 different shapes with the same area, but their perimeter is different because they look different. They still have the same area because the same number of unit squares can fit inside of it. All right, let's move to the next page here. We're going to do this next page all together, and then I'll walk you through the rest to do on your own. So you can also think of the area as the amount of space enclosed by a figure. We don't have these fun, fancy geo boards, but we can look at this picture to help us figure out the area here. It says to use a rubber band and a geo board to make this rectangle. Can't do that, but we can look here. What is the area of the rectangle in square units? We can draw our lines here to make those squares. I know my blue is hard to see, but I have 1, 2, 3 square units inside of my rectangle. The area is 3 square units. Now, you might have noticed already, this is the label for area when we're using unit squares. 20 square units, 3 square units, whatever the number is, this is the label unless it's talking about something specific. And it will tell you that beforehand. What is the area of the figure to the right? So to find area with unit squares, it doesn't always have to be rectangles. They just need to not have like diagonal lines going through. As long as we can count the unit squares, we can find the area. So how many unit squares are enclosed or covered by the figure? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know this is also 5. That makes 10, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. 24 unit squares, meaning the area is 24 square units. There's my label again. So if they don't write that for you, you need to write that in. Okay, let's move down here. We're going to talk these through, and then I'll throw the answers up because it's quite a bit of writing. Now, without drawing, tell how many different rectangles have an area of 5 square units. I'm crossing that out. We're going to draw them because we're just getting started with this. I think it's easier to see it. So let's just make one rectangle with 5 square units. 2, 3. Now our square units should be the same size. Yours should look a little better than this, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 square units. We want to know how many different rectangles have an area. Here's one. You guys think of any other ways you could draw this rectangle and still have 5 square units? Now it has to be a rectangle. It can't be a shape like this one up here. Rectangle has to look like a rectangle. So we could also draw it this way, right? This one looks a little better. So I still have 5 square units. Can I draw it any other ways? Now you might think, well, maybe I could move some of these here. That's 4. Well, then they're not there anymore. But then I have one here. Does this make a rectangle? No, because there's something missing here. So I can only draw this 2 different ways. Okay? I'll throw the answer up in just a second once we talk about this one. But the reason why is because 5 is an odd number. If we had an even number like 2 or 4, 6 or 8, we could move those unit squares around a little bit and make a lot more options for my rectangles. But with an odd number, we can really only make it like this or this way. Now, last one, how can the term unit square help you to remember that area is measured in square units? Well, let's look at those 2 terms. Those are very similar, just flipped around. So we know we're counting unit squares, so we know that it's measured in square units. Remember my label. And here we go. Let me just throw it up there. You can copy it down. That is because a unit square has an area of 1 square unit. So then when we add them all up, we know our total square units when it's more than 1. Now you don't need to write all of this, but you should have that answer 2 here. Okay, let's turn this off and then we'll go over here. So these you're going to do on your own, but let me walk you through each part here. So first you need to count unit squares to find the area of each figure. So just like this one here. Count the squares, give me the number, and then what's our label? They didn't write it this time before they wrote it. So you should be writing this after your number for number 3 and 4. Now number 5 and 6 are about the kind of the opposite. It's like what we did on the first page. Draw and shade a rectangle with an area of 36 units. So you're going to draw one rectangle, area is 36. Then you're going to find the perimeter. Now that's what's around the outside. So you can add up all of the sides. Then tell me how many units make up the perimeter. Then you're going to shade a different rectangle, but it still has 36 square units. So it cannot look just like this one. They don't look the same, but they have the same area. And then find the perimeter for this one. The perimeter should be different, right? Like on the first page with our 20 square units. They had the same area, but different perimeter. Okay, then when you're done with this, this one you just need to circle the correct answer. A figure without gaps or overlaps can be covered by 14 unit squares. Circle the correct area of the figure. Don't think too hard about this. If there are 14 unit squares in the figure or the shape, what is the area? 4 square units, 7 square units, or 14 square units? Circle one of those. Now, on the last page, we have a couple story problems. Jared used a rubber band and a geoboard to create the rectangle to the right. What is the area of the rectangle? So what is the area? You need to find the area, and then you should have a label. You should know what that label is by now. Now, number 9 is the one where we're gonna have a different label. Let's see why. Morgan, teacher Morgan, will help her parents tile a new bathroom floor. She drew a sketch, here's your sketch, of the bathroom floor. Each square unit represents 1 tile. How many tiles are needed to tile the floor? So you need to find the area and you need a label. It's not gonna be the same label as this. It's gonna be what they're asking you, how many they need of. Okay, then 2 more here. You're not gonna do the last one, just 10 and 11. So number 10 says to draw and shade a figure, not a rectangle, excuse me, with an area of 21 square units. Now it won't be a rectangle because we have 21, that's an odd number, so it can't be a rectangle. You can make the shape look however you want. You just can't have gaps or overlaps. So draw the shape, 21 square, and shade it in, and then find the perimeter. The side, the outside, out of the sides. Then you're done for today. All right, so that is it. If you have any questions, you can ask me at the break, and then you can go to your next video.